Hey everybody, today is July 15th, 2025. Welcome again to a short video courtesy of investingsuccess.ca. In today's video, I want to take a look at something called the VIX. If you listen to one of the early morning Bloomberg shows, you will often hear Tom Keene talk about VIX. It's a number that he's fascinated with. Here's the formula for it. It is a messy, ugly-looking formula involving integrals and a square root. Let's take a look under the hood and see just what makes this thing tick. So to calculate the VIX, what you're doing is you're going to take a look at the current value of the S&P 500. You're going to take a look at the put options and the call options then for various strike prices on either side of where the S&P is currently trading. And these puts and calls that you're going to look at, they will have an expiry period of more than 23 days, but less than 37 days into the future. You're going to follow the integration methodology within the formula, and you're going to end up aggregating the values of all of these option prices. You're going to take the square root of the whole thing. What you're going to end up with is basically a number. The number is going to be a reflection of how much the S&P 500 is expected to fluctuate over the coming 30 days. That's it. That's all. Now, you can actually trade the VIX, and you can do that by way of ETFs that track it. I believe there are also futures and options contracts on the VIX. So if you were going to trade it, can you use the planets? Can you use some cycles to potentially help you? Let's take a look at that. So here's a daily chart of something called the ProShares VIX short-term ETF. And using the embedded periodogram function in my Optima software, the periodogram function came back and said that within this daily chart, if it looks back at, I think I told it to go back 700 data points, it said that within all of this data, there actually is a 243-day dominant cycle. There's a 263-day dominant cycle, and there's another 378-day dominant cycle. So let's take a look at these three dominant cycles then in the context of the events in our solar system. So the first question to ask then, what is 243 days? Well, that's equivalent to the time that it takes for the center region, the equatorial region of the sun, to spin around its axis 10 times. So the sun, yeah, it's a ball of gas, it's a burning plasma, but it's actually divided into different segments, and each segment has a different amount of time that it takes to spin around its axis. So in the case of the center portion, the equatorial region, in 243 days, it's going to spin around its axis about 10 times. 243 days is also very close to being equivalent to 4 spin cycles of Mercury around its axis. It's also very close to being equivalent to 9 cycles of the moon as the moon orbits the Earth. 263 days, what is that? Very closely equivalent to 3 times the orbital period of Mercury going around the sun. 378 days, what is that equivalent to? 15 spins of the equatorial region of the sun, or about 14 cycles of the moon going around the Earth. So you'll know that I lately been reading work by astronomers like Scafetta, Wilson, Tattersall, and others. Their whole shtick is that our solar system is like a finely tuned, finely balanced, harmonic, resonant machine. Everything is spinning, everything is orbiting, and it's all in harmony with everything else. And as long as that harmony continues, our solar system will continue to function and it will continue to hold together. Now, there are times when some of these various planets will exert a gravitational torque on the outer layers of the sun. That causes the sun to spew out additional cosmic radiation, which interacts with the ionosphere around planet Earth, which in turn then affects not only the weather here on our planet, but even our human emotions. Bottom line is, it is our emotions that drive the markets. Now, let's take a look at the VIX in terms of some of these Mercury cycles, sun cycles, and moon cycles. So first off, let's take a look at the sun cycles. 24.47 days, equatorial region of the sun spinning around its axis. I went back to the October 2022 lows on the equity markets, and I overlaid these sun cycles. Lo and behold, as I got into 2024, as you can see at the left-hand side of the chart here, early August, there was a spike in the VIX. That came right at one of these 24.47 day sun cycle increments. Moving forward, late August, there was a launch, a tipping point here, and the VIX momentarily spiked. That came right at one of these cycles. Third week of September, the VIX made a little bit of a pivot swing point, again at one of these cycles. Same in October, same in November, same in December, same in January, same in February. In March, the VIX finished making a peak literally 2 days before the end of one of these cycles. Early April 2025, again, the VIX went on a tear as the equity markets melted down when everybody was panicking over tariffs and the end of globalization. And look at where that VIX spike came, right at the end of one of these sun cycles. And you can just keep projecting these things forward. So there's a valid tool to help you if you were interested in trading the VIX. Now, let's take a look at the axial spin cycle of Mercury. 59 days to spin one time around on its axis. I went to the February 2020 as a start date. That was right ahead of the COVID panic sell-off. And lo and behold, if I project these 59-day cycles going forward, I get into, at the left-hand side of the chart here, March of 2025. You can see that the midpoint of one of these Mercury cycles lands right at a very important inflection point on the VIX. And you can see that there's another inflection point in May of 2025, right at the midpoint of one of these cycles. You can see that in June, third week of June, as one of these Mercury cycles came to an end, the VIX, which had been going more or less sideways, decided it was going to take a bit of a plunge as the equity markets decided to stage a powerful rally. And the midpoint of the current Mercury spin cycle is going to arrive around about the 22nd of July. Could be something that happens on the VIX at that point. Time will tell. So there's another valuable tool to help you navigate the choppy waters of the VIX, the Mercury spin cycle. And I've also put on the moon cycles. 27.3 days is what it takes the moon to go around the Earth. And that is if you are observing the movement of the moon, not from on planet Earth, but if you were out in space at a fixed reference point. I just picked August of 2024 as a start date. And if I project forward, we get into March of 2025, and there's a little swing in the VIX, and that's right at the end of one of these moon cycles. Later in March, right at the midpoint of one of these moon cycles, was a very critical inflection point on the VIX. One of these moon cycles ends early in April, and that's right when the VIX was spiking and starting to roll over and come down. Early May, VIX had been coming down, and literally, a couple days after that, it really plunged. Same argument can be made for the first couple days of June. Midpoint in June was the VIX had been threatening to start spiking, but at the midpoint of that moon cycle, it went sideways instead. And you can just keep projecting these moon cycles forward. So again, there's another valuable tool for you to use if you are trying to navigate the choppy waters of the VIX. All right, I'm going to leave it at that for now. You know where to find me, investingsuccess.ca. You've heard about my astrology letter, my cycle report. I go into a lot more detail in some of these reports. You can also find me on Substack. In the process of writing another book. I'm not sure if it's going to be called The Lost Science or whether I'm going to come up with some other catchy title, but I'm going to incorporate a lot of the material that I've gathered over the past dozen years, including a lot of George Bayer's rules and now some of this heliocentric stuff concerning the solar radiation impacting our emotions. And eventually, when I can find some time, I'm going to do a couple more courses on udemy.com. So I hope that I've given you some valuable insight into the VIX, and hopefully you can use these cyclical tools then to help you navigate the VIX if you are trading it. So have a great day, and we will talk again real soon.